Imagine staying awake, but not after a bad night, not because of anxiety, not because you drank coffee too late. Imagine never sleeping again. No hours of rest, no dreams, no mental shutdown, only eternal wakefulness. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? But the human mind only feels stable because sleep resets it every single day. Remove that. Strip it away entirely, and everything you believe is you begins to fall apart. Tonight, you and I will walk through the darkest corners of human psychology to understand what truly happens when you challenge the one limit your brain cannot survive without: sleep. Stay until the end if you can. The first 24 hours awake. Most people have lived through it. You feel tired, irritable, unfocused. Nothing extreme. Your brain is turning on its warning lights, telling you it needs to shut down, but you ignore it. You push through. And something subtle begins to shift. Your thoughts feel slippery, time begins to blur, minutes and hours lose their boundaries. But you still think you're in control. You still believe your willpower is enough. You're wrong, but you don't know that yet. After 36 hours without sleep, your brain enters what psychologists call REM intrusions. It means that even while awake, fragments of dreams begin leaking into your perception. A shadow moves where nothing should move. Something flickers at the corner of your eye. You turn your head. Nothing. But you saw it. And your brain, desperate for rest, begins dreaming while you're conscious. You call it hallucination, but to your mind it is real, because it no longer knows the difference between dreaming and waking. Now imagine passing 48 hours without sleep. This is where you lose control over your own thoughts. Logic begins to fracture. Simple sentences feel hard to process. The outside world becomes distant, while the world inside your head grows louder, sharper, demanding your attention. Many people begin hearing voices at this stage, not ghosts, not spirits, but their own mind talking back to them, separately, as if one part of the brain begins commenting on their life. Sometimes criticizing, sometimes reminding them of traumas, sometimes convincing them of things that aren't true. And here is what terrifies even psychologists. The voice doesn't sound like yours. It has a different tone, a different intention, a different personality. And for the first time, you realize your mind has layers you never truly knew existed, layers that only appear when the brain begins to break. At 60 hours awake, the limbic system, your emotional center, begins operating without the rational filter of the prefrontal cortex. That means your emotions start firing without control. Fear turns into panic, irritation turns into rage, sadness turns into despair. There is no balance. You lose the ability to interpret emotional signals correctly. A small sound can trigger a fight or flight response. Silence can make you feel hunted. Something inside you insists something is wrong even when nothing is happening. But to your brain, everything is happening at once. After 72 hours of no sleep, reality dissolves. Your perception collapses. Objects appear to subtly move or breathe. Reflections seem to follow you. Shadows feel intentional. And the longer you stay awake, the more your brain fails to filter information. Everything becomes overwhelming. Everything becomes a threat. Even familiar rooms, even familiar faces. It's like watching the world through cracked, fogged glass. And at this point, your brain enters survival mode. It doesn't want you awake anymore. It needs to shut down. It will force it, one way or another. But imagine doing the unthinkable. You continue. You resist. You push past the threshold. And this is where psychology itself starts losing clarity. Because the human mind was not designed to navigate this territory, and when it's forced to, you enter a psychological landscape that scientists themselves struggle to describe. Some people lose their sense of identity. They forget who they are. They feel like their memories no longer belong to them. Others describe leaving their own body, watching themselves from outside, like a ghost trapped inside the mind, observing life instead of living it. Some speak to people who aren't there. Some have full conversations with figures that never existed. Others freeze in the middle of the street, convinced they're looking at something invisible to everyone else. And some simply collapse, Because the brain shuts itself off to survive. The scientific term is microsleep, tiny blackouts lasting 3 to 15 seconds. You might be talking, driving, walking, holding something, and suddenly your brain disconnects completely. It's automatic, it's primitive, it's the brain's version of rebooting. And when you snap back, you often don't remember where you are or what you were doing. It feels like waking from a dream you don't remember entering. And it shatters you, because time stops making sense, the world stops making sense. You stop making sense. But there is an even darker layer in the psychology of sleep deprivation, the confrontation with the inner self. When you stop sleeping, your brain loses the ability to suppress unwanted thoughts. The ones you avoid, the ones you bury, the ones you pretend don't exist. Sleep normally cleans your emotions, reorganizes your memories, and resets your emotional balance. Without it, everything comes back at once, raw, violent, overwhelming. Your mind unleashes its worst ghosts one by one. Philosophers call this the abyss of consciousness. Nietzsche warned that when you stare into the abyss stares back. Sleep deprivation does exactly that. It removes distraction, logic, comfort, and leaves you alone with the version of you that you've spent your entire life avoiding. There's no escape, no quiet, no psychological shield. You face a version of yourself you do not recognize, unfinished, vulnerable, unprotected. And for many, that is unbearable. So the real question becomes, how long until you break? What does it mean to break? Psychology describes 4 levels of collapse. The first is cognitive. Your ability to think and remember deteriorates. The second is emotional. Your feelings turn chaotic. The third is perceptual. Your senses betray you. And the fourth is existential. Here you lose your sense of self. Your identity fractures. Your consciousness splits. You become an observer inside your own body. And some people never fully return. Now answer honestly, do you truly believe you would survive this? Do you think your mind is strong enough? Do you believe you could stay awake forever and still remain you? Most people do, until they learn how fragile the mind really is, how delicate, how easy it is for the brain to turn against itself. And the most disturbing part? Even after sleeping again, some people continue to hear echoes of the hallucinations, faint voices, soft shadow movements, the sensation of something there when nothing is, as if sleep deprivation left permanent cracks in their perception, as if something woke up and refused to go back to sleep. So I ask you once more, what would happen to you if you never slept again? Would you face your own mind, or would your mind become your greatest enemy? Would you survive the weight of your own thoughts? If you made it this far, tell me, which part of the human mind do you find the most terrifying? Losing your identity? Hearing voices? Seeing things that aren't there? Or being trapped endlessly inside your own consciousness without ever shutting down? Write your thoughts in the comments. I read them all, and maybe your answer will appear in the next video. If this content disturbed you, hit the like button. It helps me know you want to continue exploring the darkest corners of human psychology with me. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe now.